Karen keeps vandalizing my mailbox. She picked the wrong rancher to mess with. The sun was barely up, painting the Wyoming sky in streaks of pink and gold, when I heard the unmistakable crunch of gravel under tires. My ranch, a sprawling 200 acres of hard-won peace, sat at the end of a dirt road so remote you'd need a vendetta or a death wish to find it. I was sipping black coffee on the porch, my border collie Rusty panting at my feet, when the screech of metal on metal ripped through the morning quiet. My mailbox. Again. I set the mug down, my jaw tight. 3 times in 2 weeks, that damn woman had come for my mailbox. Karen. The name alone made my blood simmer. She wasn't just any Karen, she was the Karen. The kind who'd demand to speak to the manager of a lemonade stand run by a 6-year-old. Blonde bob, yoga pants, and a sneer that could curdle milk. She'd moved into the McMansion down the road 6 months ago, bringing her city attitude to our slice of nowhere. And for reasons I couldn't fathom, she'd decided my mailbox was her personal punching bag. I grabbed my hat, a weathered Stetson that had seen more winters than I cared to count, and strode toward the road. Rusty trotted behind, his ears perked. Sure enough, there was Karen's cherry-red SUV, idling like a getaway car. She was out of the driver's seat, wielding a baseball bat like she was auditioning for the apocalypse. My mailbox sturdy, welded steel I'd built myself lay crumpled like a soda can, its post bent at a pitiful angle. Karen, I bellowed, my voice carrying over the sagebrush. She froze mid-swing, her bat hovering like a guillotine. What the hell's your problem? She turned, her face a mask of righteous fury. This eyesore, she spat, gesturing at the mailbox, is dragging down property values. I'm doing you a favor, rancher. I laughed, sharp and humorless. A favor? Lady, you're trespassing and destroying my property. You think you can just roll up here and play vigilante? Her eyes narrowed, lips pursed like she'd sucked a lemon. I'm protecting the aesthetic. You wouldn't understand. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her lavender perfume clashing with the Wyoming dust. You're gonna understand a lawsuit if you don't back off. This is my land. My rules. She scoffed, tossing her hair. Try it, cowboy. I've got lawyers who eat guys like you for breakfast. With that, she swung back into her SUV, peeled out, and left a cloud of dust in her wake. Rusty whined, nudging my leg. I scratched his ears, staring at the wreckage of my mailbox. This wasn't just about a mailbox anymore. This was war. By noon, I was at the hardware store in town, picking up supplies to rebuild. The clerk, Old Man Jenkins, raised an eyebrow as I loaded my cart with steel plates and a new post. Karen again? He asked, his voice gravelly with amusement. Yup, I said, tossing in a bag of bolts. She's got a hard-on for my mailbox. Any ideas? Jenkins chuckled, leaning on the counter. Heard she tried to sue the diner for serving her decaf. Woman's got too much time and not enough sense. You want my advice? Fight crazy with crazy. I grinned. Jenkins wasn't wrong. Karen thought she could bully her way through life, but she'd picked the wrong rancher to mess with. I'd been running this land for 15 years, through blizzards, droughts, and a grizzly that thought my cattle were a buffet. If Karen wanted a fight, I'd give her one she'd never forget. Back at the ranch, I spent the afternoon welding a new mailbox, this one a fortress of steel with reinforced hinges and a lock even a crowbar couldn't crack. I painted it bright red. Her least favorite color ranted about it at the last town meeting, claiming it clashed with the natural palette. Petty? Sure. Satisfying? Hell yes. But I wasn't done. Jenkins' words stuck with me. Fight crazy with crazy. That night, under a sky thick with stars, I rigged a motion sensor camera by the mailbox, hidden in the sagebrush. If Karen came back, I'd have her on tape. And if she thought she could outsmart me, she was about to learn a lesson in Wyoming stubbornness. The next morning, I checked the camera. Nothing. No Karen, no SUV, just a coyote sniffing around at 3 a.m. I almost felt disappointed. Almost. But I knew her type, she wouldn't quit. She was like a dog with a bone, and I was the bone. Sure enough, 2 days later, she struck again. This time, I didn't hear the gravel crunch. I didn't need to. The camera pinged my phone at 6:17 a.m., and there she was, caught in grainy black and white, smashing my new mailbox with a tire iron. She'd upgraded her weapon, but so had I. The mailbox held firm, barely dented, and Karen's face twisted in frustration as she realized it. She gave it one last whack, then stormed back to her SUV, muttering something I couldn't hear but could imagine. I saved the footage, burned it to a USB drive, and drove to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Torres, a no-nonsense woman who'd once stared down a drunk ranch hand with a shotgun, watched the video with a smirk. "Well, damn, Nate," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You've got yourself a genuine Karen epidemic. Can you do anything?" I asked, arms crossed. "She's escalating. Next time, it might not be just my mailbox." Torres nodded, her eyes sharp. "I'll pay her a visit. Trespassing and vandalism are enough to scare her straight. But you know how these rich folks are lawyers on speed dial. Keep that camera rolling." I thanked her and headed home, feeling a flicker of victory. But it didn't last. That night, I woke to Rusty barking like the devil himself was at the door. I grabbed my rifle, heart pounding, and stepped onto the porch. The motion sensor lights blazed, illuminating the yard, and there, by the mailbox, was Karen's SUV. But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, tall and lanky, holding a flashlight. He wasn't swinging a bat or a tire iron. He was spray painting my mailbox, neon green paint dripping down the steel like toxic slime. Karen stood watch, her arms crossed, a smug grin on her face. I didn't recognize the guy, but he moved with the nervous energy of someone who didn't want to be there. "Hey," I shouted, cocking the rifle for effect. The man dropped the spray can and bolted for the SUV, but Karen didn't flinch. She turned, her eyes locking on mine, and smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a caught-in-the-act smilia cold, calculated one that made my skin crawl. "You're out of your league, rancher," she called, sauntering toward her car. "This is just the start." They peeled out before I could get a clear shot at the license plate. Rusty growled, his hackles up, and I lowered the rifle, my mind racing. Who the hell was that guy? And what did she mean, just the start? The next day, I reinforced the mailbox with an extra layer of steel and checked the camera again. The footage showed the man's face clearly mid-30s, scruffy beard, eyes darting like a cornered animal. I didn't know him, but something about him felt off, like he was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. I sent the video to Torres, who promised to run his face through the system, but I wasn't holding my breath. Karen had money, and money bought silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was bigger than a mailbox. Karen wasn't just a bored housewife with a grudge, she was playing a game, and I was missing the rules. So I did what any rancher would do. I dug in. I set up more cameras, one at the gate, another hidden in the cottonwood tree by the road. I even rigged a motion sensor sprinkler, the kind used to scare off deer, but dialed up to blast anyone who got too close to the mailbox. If Karen wanted war, I'd make it a wet one. Days passed without incident, but the tension gnawed at me. Every creak of the house, every rustle in the brush, had me reaching for the rifle. Rusty sensed it too, sticking closer than usual, his eyes scanning the horizon. Then, on a rainy Thursday night, the cameras caught something new. It wasn't Karen. It wasn't her mystery man. It was a kid couldn't have been more than 16 sneaking up to the mailbox with a can of spray paint. He was skinny, all elbows and knees, his hoodie soaked from the rain. He glanced around, nervous, then started shaking the can. Before he could spray, the sprinkler kicked on, blasting him with a jet of icy water. He yelped, dropped the can, and sprinted into the dark. I watched the footage, my gut twisting. A kid? What the hell was Karen doing, dragging a teenager into her vendetta? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, the rifle across my lap, replaying the video. The kid's face was clear enough: freckles, wide eyes, a look of pure panic. He wasn't a vandal by choice. He was scared. The next morning, I drove to town, determined to get answers. I showed the footage to Jenkins at the hardware store, figuring he knew everyone in a 50-mile radius. His face darkened as he watched. "That's Tommy Grayson," he said, his voice low. "Good kid, lives with his mom out by the old mill. Been in and out of trouble, but nothing serious. What's he doing at your place?" "I was hoping you'd tell me," I said, leaning on the counter. "He's mixed up with Karen. You know anything about her? Anything I'm missing?" Jenkins hesitated, his eyes flicking to the door like he expected her to walk in. "Folks say she's got a past. Moved here after some scandal in Denver, something about her husband and a bad business deal. Nobody knows the details, but she's got money and grudges to spare. If she's got Tommy involved, you better watch your back." I nodded, my mind spinning. A scandal? A mystery man? A kid. Karen wasn't just vandalizing my mailbox, she was building something, a web I was tangled in without knowing why. I thanked Jenkins and drove to the Grayson place, a rundown trailer on the edge of town. Tommy's mom answered the door, her face lined with worry. I showed her the footage, keeping my tone gentle. "Tommy's not a bad kid," she said, her voice trembling. "He's just impressionable. That woman, Karen, she's been giving him money. Said it was for odd jobs, but I didn't trust her. I told him to stay away, but he's 16. He doesn't listen." She shook her head, tears welling. "I don't know. He won't tell me. But he's been scared lately, sneaking out at night. I'm so sorry, Mr. Carter. I'll talk to him." I left her my number and drove home, the pieces clicking into place, but not quite fitting. Karen was using Tommy, maybe the mystery man too, but for what? Property values? Revenge? Or something deeper, something I couldn't see yet? That night, I sat on the porch, Rusty at my side, the rifle within reach. The stars were hidden by clouds, and the air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing. I didn't know what Karen's next move would be, but I knew one thing. She'd underestimated me. I'd built this ranch from nothing, fought off wolves and bankers and Mother Nature herself. If Karen thought she could break me, she was about to learn the hard way. Wyoming ranchers don't back down. The camera pinged at 2 a.m. I grabbed my phone, expecting Karen or Tommy or the mystery man. But what I saw stopped me cold. It wasn't any of them. It was a woman I'd never seen before, older, maybe 60, her face weathered but kind. She wasn't vandalizing the mailbox, she was taping something to it. A small envelope, her hands shaking as she worked. She glanced around, then disappeared into the dark. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to the mailbox, my heart pounding. The envelope was plain, no name, no address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten in neat, looping script. "Nate Carter, you don't know me, but I know Karen. She's not what she seems. Meet me at the old barn on Route 17 tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. Burn this." I stared at the note, my blood running cold. Who was this woman? And what did she know about Karen that I didn't? I burned the note in the fireplace, watching the flames eat the words, and made a decision. Tomorrow night, I'd be at that barn. Karen had picked the wrong rancher to mess with, and I was done playing defense. The next day dragged like a lame horse. I worked the ranch on autopilot, mending fences and feeding the cattle, but my mind was on that barn and the mysterious woman. Rusty sensed my unease, sticking close, his eyes tracking me like he knew trouble was coming. By dusk, I was a coiled spring, ready to snap. I cleaned my rifle, packed a flashlight, and left a note for my neighbor, Cal, to check on the place if I didn't come back. Melodramatic? Maybe. But Karen's smile from that night by the mailbox, the one that promised worse to come, had me on edge. Route 17 was a lonely stretch of asphalt, flanked by sagebrush and shadows. The old barn loomed against the moonless sky, its weathered boards sagging like a tired old man. I parked my truck a quarter-mile away, cutting the engine and hiking the rest of the distance. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and damp earth, and every rustle in the brush had me gripping the flashlight tighter. I reached the barn just before midnight, my boots silent on the dirt. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing a cavern of darkness broken only by slivers of starlight through the roof. "You Nate Carter?" A voice, soft but steady, came from the shadows. I swung the flashlight, catching a glimpse of her, the woman from the camera. She was older than I'd thought, her face carved with lines of worry, her gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She held up a hand, shielding her eyes. "Put that down. I'm not here to hurt you." I lowered the beam, but kept my other hand on the rifle slung over my shoulder. "Who are you? And what's this about Karen?" She stepped closer, her eyes darting to the door like she expected company. "Name's Ellen Grayson, Tommy's grandmother." My stomach dropped. "Tommy, the kid with the spray paint. I've been watching Karen for months. She's got my grandson wrapped up in something dangerous, and I think you're her real target." "Target?" I scoffed, but my pulse quickened. "She's smashing my mailbox because she hates my taste in metalwork. What's that got to do with Tommy?" Ellen's lips pressed into a thin line. "It's not about the mailbox, Nate. It's about your land." Karen's husband, Richard, was a real estate developer in Denver. They lost everything in a bad deal, fraud, lawsuits, the works. She moved here to start over, but she's still playing his game. Your ranch sits on a vein of rare earth minerals. She knows it, and she wants you gone. I stared, the words sinking in like a stone in a pond. Minerals? My land. It sounded like a bad movie, but Ellen's eyes held no trace of a lie. How do you know this? And why's Tommy involved? Tommy's dad's son worked for Richard years ago, she said, her voice cracking. He got burned in the same deal, ended up in prison. Karen tracked Tommy down, offered him cash to do her dirty work. Said it was just pranks, but I overheard her talking to that man you saw, her muscle. They're planning to scare you off, make it look like you abandoned the place. Then she'll swoop in, buy it cheap at auction. I clenched my jaw, fury bubbling up. Karen wasn't just a nuisance, she was a predator, using a kid, my land, my life as pawns. Why tell me? Why not go to the sheriff? Ellen laughed, bitter and hollow. Torres is good, but Karen's got money and connections. She'd bury me in lawyers before I could blink. You're different. You're stubborn. You fight. And I'm betting you can stop her before she ruins Tommy for good. I nodded, my mind racing. What's in the envelope? Why the cloak and dagger? Proof, she said, pulling a USB drive from her coat. Emails, bank records, maps of your land with mineral surveys. I hacked her laptop. Don't ask how. Old ladies have hobbies too. But you need to move fast. She's planning something big, and it's happening soon. I took the drive, its weight heavy in my palm. Thanks, Ellen. I'll handle it. Get Tommy out of here. Keep him safe. She nodded, her eyes glistening. Be careful, Nate. She's not just crazish desperate. That's worse. We parted ways, and I hiked back to my truck, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. By the time I got home, dawn was breaking, and I was wired on adrenaline. I plugged the drive into my laptop, and what I found made my blood run cold. Emails between Karen and the mystery man. His name was Vince, a hired thug with a rap sheet detailing a plan to sabotage my ranch. They'd start with the mailbox, escalate to fences, then poison my water supply to kill my cattle. The final step? Arson. Burn the house, make it look like I'd fled. The mineral surveys confirmed Ellen's story. My land was worth millions, and Karen had investors lined up to fund her takeover. I called Sheriff Torres, laying out everything. She was skeptical, but agreed to meet me at the ranch with a deputy. I spent the day fortifying the place, extra locks, more cameras, and a call to Cal to bring his shotgun and a few of his ranch hands. If Karen was coming, she'd face a small army. That night, the storm hit, literal and figurative. Rain lashed the ranch, thunder rattling the windows. The cameras pinged at 11 p.m., showing Vince creeping toward the barn with a gas can. Karen wasn't with him, but I knew she was close. I grabbed my rifle and signaled Cal, who was posted in the hayloft. Torres and her deputy were en route, but the storm had slowed them down. It was up to us. I slipped out the back, rain soaking me to the bone, and flanked Vince as he doused the barn. Drop it, I shouted, aiming the rifle. He froze, the gas can clattering to the ground. Cal's flashlight blinded him from above, and for a moment, I thought we had him. Then Karen's voice cut through the ring. Nate, you're making this harder than it needs to be. She stepped from the shadows, holding a pistol, her blonde bob plastered to her face. Walk away. Sell me the land. Nobody gets hurt. I laughed, cold and hard. You think I'm scared of you? You're a city girl playing cowboy. Put the gun down before you shoot your own foot. Her smile returned, that same chilling one. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about you. It's about what's under your dirt. I'm not leaving empty-handed. Vince lunged, thinking I was distracted, but Cal was faster. A warning shot cracked the air, and Vince hit the ground, hands up. Karen's eyes widened, her grip on the pistol tightening. For a second, I thought she'd shoot. Then headlights swept the yard. Torres's cruiser, siren blaring. Karen's face crumpled, and she dropped the gun, raising her hands. Game over, Karen, I said, stepping closer. You picked the wrong rancher. Torres cuffed them both, reading their rights as the rain poured. Vince spilled everything before they reached the station, desperate for a deal. Karen stayed silent, her eyes boring into me like she could will me dead. But it was done. The USB drive, the cameras, Ellen's testimony, it was enough to bury her. The aftermath was messy. Karen faced charges of conspiracy, vandalism, and attempted arson. Vince took a plea, ratting out her investors. Tommy, shaken but safe, confessed to his part, earning community service under Ellen's watchful eye. My ranch was secure, but the victory felt hollow. I'd won, but at what cost? The peace I'd built here was cracked, tainted by Karen's greed. A week later, I was rebuilding the mailbox again when Ellen pulled up in a beat-up sedan. Tommy sat in the passenger seat, head down. She handed me a thermos of coffee, her smile tired but warm. "You did good, Nate. Tommy's got a chance now, thanks to you." I glanced at the kid, who muttered a barely audible sorry. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Keep him out of trouble, Ellen. He's got potential." She drove off, and I finished the mailbox, painting it red just to spite Karen's ghost. But as I stepped back, admiring my work, a pang hit me. Karen was gone, but her kind people who saw land, lives, kids as pieces on a board weren't. I'd fought one battle, but the war never ended. That night, I sat on the porch with Rusty, the stars bright above. The USB drive was in a safe deposit box, the cameras still rolling. I'd won, but the cost was etched in every line of Ellen's face, every flinch in Tommy's eyes. Karen had lost everything: her freedom, her fortune, her game. But me? I'd lost something too. Trust. Faith that my corner of Wyoming could stay untouched by the world's rot. The mailbox stood firm, a silent sentinel. I raised my coffee to it, a bitter toast. "To you, Karen," I murmured. "You picked the wrong rancher. But damn if you didn't leave a mark." What do you think? Was Nate right to fight Karen's war on her terms? Or should he have walked away? Was Karen a villain, or a product of a world that rewards greed? Share your thoughts. Whose side are you on?